I'm Ted Urban. I work at Bear Stearns. I cover the interactive entertainment companies. And over the past 2 years, I've really covered the broader media leisure space, so everything from cruise lines to video rental stores to the film exhibitors. So my perspective today on the business models will really be a broad sense of the publishers. I cover Electronic Arts, Activision, THQ, and Take-Two. And what I think has been interesting and what I've noticed over the past couple of years is really the transition of the business model towards digital distribution. I mean, I think the end game for all content is digital distribution, and the interesting thing is going to be to see how we get there. But I guess we can talk about that more as we go through the session. But I really think that is going to be a theme of some of the aspects of the business models that I talk about.
Actually, I think that's a good segue into that very topic. I mean, Keith, you're already, I think from day one, you guys have been focused on digital distribution, right?
It's true, though. We also are a distribution partner of Atari, of all things, for one of our first games. But our primary business is, in fact, just straight digital distribution.
Mm-hmm. And kind of why? I mean, why did you guys seize on that? Was it?
Well, just simply as a startup, you don't want to find yourself competing against the likes of Vivendi and Atari. You really got to find a place for yourself where you can actually, go in, make a difference, and then kind of have a footprint in an area so you have some value going forward. So we saw changes happening in the space that were going to, be very dramatic, and we're going to change the publishing model. I know as a former publisher, because I worked at Sun Juice Direct, we were owned by Viacom, that a big part of our value was financing Walmart's inventory. We paid for everything we put in, and we paid co-op, and we made sure that everything happened there. If people are getting their content digitally, does that change? And so if you have these moments, where the models get temporarily broken, you have an opportunity, to go in there and make some money. So we really felt that we wanted to take advantage of this, try to build a new kind of business, one that might be, valuable in its own right, might be attractive to, other folks, and that's really the business that we're in. We have one of those classic seed capital kind of businesses. So digital was where we set out to, immediately, and I think that it's panned out, very well. I think that a lot of the industry is starting to move, into the position where we set for ourselves.
Right. And so, Robert, as a large publisher or representative of a large publisher, I mean, it sounds like you guys, Atari, has set up a division that's focused on digital distribution, or at least a number of your divisions are looking at that in a serious way. Is that a recent phenomena, or was there a point where kind of traditional video game space was turning a blind eye to digital distribution? How do you guys approach it?
It's been an evolving type of thing, and it is at Atari, it's a specific group of people, but that's their mission, is to kind of grow into digital distribution. And it's a tricky thing for publishers, because you're kind of your bread and butter is retail business, and but that's also the business that it's often hurting you. I mean, it comes down to the Walmart buyer, the Best Buy buyer. Those two channels move the majority of the product in North America. Particularly the bigger SKUs. Really it's one or two people, it's an associate buyer, buyer. These guys are controlling your business, and that's a pretty scary thing when you're, Atari's revenues in North America are 200 million, and it comes down to a large portion of that funnels through a couple people. It's kind of scary. So you want to do the digital distribution, but at the same time you have to balance that with, you don't want to necessarily bypass and somehow avoid the Walmart and Best Buy, because they saw a very valid place. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, and I think all of the big publishers are kind of going through that. A little bit of growing pains. What can we do in the online space that won't affect our retail business, but maybe enhance the retail business. And over time, I think you'll see that get more and more mature. The business models get more and more mature, and you'll start seeing the retail. I hate to give any projections, but you'll start seeing the retail slow down sometime in the future.
And when you say, this is an open question, but you mentioned that retail is the bread and butter of Atari, and I presume other large publishers. To what extent? I mean, is digital distribution all about right now and the focus on it all about potential, or is it 10% of the total
Yeah,
revenue?
the data that I've seen, and I'm not in that digital distribution group at Atari, so they would know a little bit more. But the data that I've seen, because I roll up a lot of the business models, the P&Ls for the games, you expect, if you take a typical box product and you monetize it online, you put a direct drive, Steam, all these kind of guys, you roll all that up, you're looking at maybe 5% of the total. We did Neverwinter Nights 2 in November. It's a fairly large game. And that did very well. It was kind of a real good test case for a massive kind of PC launch, and that did very well. I don't remember the exact units, but we were very pleased with the online. But it's still dwarfed by the retail sales. So you're talking a couple 100,000 units and maybe 10,000 units in the online arena. And I was looking at NPD. Actually, I didn't bring this data with me today. I was looking at NPD this morning on a totally different matter, but I noticed that they're starting to book a little bit of e-commerce projections in their rollout, of different titles, and they were running around 3%, something like that, in their kind of figures. So I don't know how they came up with that, but still talking about a fairly small portion of the overall for a box launch. But content that's specifically designed for digital media, for digital distribution, can obviously that can probably do a whole lot better, and it's totally unsuited for the box. There's been some case studies in some companies that are trying to take some online stuff, like Oberon Media, and put that into a box form, and I think that's been kind of root one in terms of success.
Mm-hmm. What's your view? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say that it's very interesting to think about things like like DVDs. When you start to think about digital distribution versus retail distribution, there obviously is this great market for content that existed in kind of an online-y kind of way, like television. In retail stores, people like to own that box. It is a tangible object that has real value, and you can charge for that. And I think that kind of model continues going forever and ever. When we look at the model, we don't say, what can we steal from retail? What we're really saying to ourselves is, what can we steal from television? They have an entirely different model that's really based upon appointment consumption and advertising and bringing marketers directly to to the consumer through the kinds of things that they do throughout the day. And so, just looking at it as a percentage of retail sales, I think it shorts the market. I think that you really got to take a look at the other places where this is going to have an impact, like, can we put advertising dollars in there? Can we do things like drive, dollars to ISPs, whoever might get in that business through this kind of content? So there are lots of different ways that you can use it. It's very fungible. I think it's going to impact a lot of different businesses.
Yeah,
Just to echo some of Robert's thoughts as well and add a few more numbers. For Activision, in the 6 months ending September 30th, they had about $3 million in downloadable revenue, which is about 1% of overall revenue. So it's still very small. And in my view, it is very much about potential. We don't forecast significant contribution from downloadable content until late in the cycle, and that's for a few reasons. First of all, you've got some obstacles in you need an online-enabled console base, you need broadband penetration, you need people connecting once they have those online-enabled consoles. So those are a few obstacles. And then in terms of, I guess, a longer term and seeing more and more content going by digital distribution to consumers, I think there's a few things on the consumer behavior side. People are used to being able to take their game and bring it to a friend's house and play it there. They've become accustomed to being able to trade that game in at GameStop for a used game credit. And so that's not something that I think that the consumers are prepared to give up right away. We're going to move in that direction, but those are just a few obstacles on the consumer behavior side as well.